Welcome back to The Real Story. I'm Matt Karen. Want to welcome in our next guest, the outgoing Chief of Police for the town of South Windsor, Scott Custer. Chief, it's always great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
And congratulations on your impending retirement, by the way. You announced you are calling it a career, 31 years of service. I got to ask you, why now?
Really, it's just, I've met a lot of professional goals. I had really intended to stay a couple more years. But when I saw the effects that COVID had on my family, I've got my wife and I have two teenage sons, very difficult time in the spring semester with that. My wife being an educator herself, a lot of challenges. And I just felt, now would be a good time just in case COVID comes back full force to have a little more flexibility in my schedule and be able to support my family a little better.
Yeah, that makes sense. As you reflect, how has the job of being a police officer evolved? Give me an example of maybe what's one thing that's better than it was 31 years ago, and what's one thing that's not as good?
Certainly the ability to gather information. Right now the officers have at their fingertips the computer in the cars. They can do reports. They can search databases. They can look up, ID files if they need to speak, to identify someone. And of course, on their smartphones, they can do their time card. They can pick up our operations manual. All whatever 700 pages of policies that we have are available to right then and there on their smartphone in an app. So there's a ton of information available to these officers to make their jobs a little easier. And on the flip side, I think social media and things have made it a little harder to do their job. People, pretty much make a snap decision based on what they see and maybe just a snippet of a cell phone video, not understanding the full story, and people are quick to judge. And I think it's important that we all take the time to realize, there's a larger part of the story, and we need to be cognizant of that. So, so it's the technology giveth and taketh away.
Yeah, well, during your time at the South Windsor Police Department, you wore many hats. One of them was as a public information officer. So I'm wondering, what did you learn from that position about the importance of transparency in what you do?
We have always been committed to working with our media partners in transparency. This goes back to Chief Tyler, continued under Chief Matt Reed and Chief Tim Edwards, and then certainly myself. Very important. The media is our partners. We rely on you to get our message out to a very broad audience. Not everyone follows us on Facebook. Not everyone follows us on Twitter or Instagram. So it's very important that we do partner, and in order to have police legitimacy, you've got to be honest and open about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if a mistake is made, you own up to it and you move on. So it's very important to have a good relationship with all your media partners.
Yeah, and I can confirm that when it comes to your department, that is certainly bore out to be true, and we appreciate that. Chief, when it comes to transparency and accountability, do you believe in the ability for the police to investigate themselves? Do you think officer misconduct investigations should be handled by internal affairs, or is that a function that you think is better served by an independent outside authority?
I think the system we have in place generally works well. For something that's really serious, a state's attorney who's not from your county steps in. There are folks that don't know you well, don't deal with you often or at all, and they go over and they take the state police typically come in and do the technical investigation. The state's attorney does their investigation. Obviously the media is also involved in kind of watching the process and getting information, and I think that works well. Internally for the small investigations that you have, typically they're conducted by officers who are not part of the union, so it's usually the chief or deputy chief or a captain or something like that. And I think we can effectively police ourselves. In fact, I think you may find that we are harder on ourselves than an outside entity might be. But again, it's a hot topic these days. We're always open to discussion. Yeah. We want to be part of the conversation. And I think it's good that people understand the process about what we do and how we do it.
So there's a lot going on in the country. Everybody knows that. What are your thoughts on the current climate of racial unrest across the nation? And if you think policing needs to evolve, how so?
Well, I think to go back just maybe a step or two, you look at initiatives like 8 Can't Wait and things such as that. And, I'm proud that our agency has always been kind of in the forefront. We were an early adopter of body cameras 5 years ago, thanks to a generous donation by our local Freemasons that got us started. We've had cruiser cameras for decades. We're very much used to being on camera, being held accountable, having our video being audited by supervisors, and obviously releasable to the media and all that. So I think that's a good thing. And we've done a lot of the language in our policies reflects the same type of thing. We didn't have duty to intervene specifically spelled out. It was there in spirit. Well, now it's spelled out. So there's a lot of things we can do. I think it's very important, though, that we just have a conversation. It seems like people are kind of making a binary decision and feeling like, it's you're either for the police or against the police, or, you're supporting equality or you're not. And, there's so many facets. I mean, no one hates a bad cop more than a good cop. So, we're all in the same boat, and we've knelt and prayed, with the folks that wanted to come out and protest the murder of George Floyd, and I have no problem with that. I mean, we're proud of that, and we just want to be part of the conversation. And unfortunately, that really the conversation hasn't really evolved. There's still a lot of anger, there's still a lot of distrust, and I think we're just kind of waiting it out, and we're just kind of waiting to be ready to sit down. And of course, COVID doesn't help. We just want to sit down face to face and have that conversation. You can't see the inflection of my face behind a mask, and it's so difficult. We've missed out on so much. You talk about community programs and building inroads. We've missed out on our 5-on-5 basketball tournament. Our SROs have missed out so much in the schools. We haven't done our coffee with a cop, coffee with the chief, the drug take-back day, our food drives. There's just so much we've missed out on because we love being out in the community.
Yeah,
this is where
I agree, Chief. I do think I want to just get to a couple other topics here, but you're right. I mean, just the other day I was driving in town and there was a sign on somebody's lawn said Black Lives Matter, and right next to it a sign that said we support the police. And there's no reason that those two messages have to be mutually exclusive. So you're right. Do you worry, though, I wonder, that with the microscope being on police the way that it is in a time when seconds may matter and the deadly use of force may be justified, do you worry that an officer will hesitate given the national conversation?
Yeah, I do. I'm concerned about the legislation. It's a great shift in what our training has been, and you're asking veteran officers to now come and kind of sit back for a second and look at, what am I supposed to do? Am I falling into the provocation doctrine? Am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? We all vilified the officer in Parkland because we felt he didn't move in quick enough, and it's almost like this new law suggests that that's what you're supposed to do because is a forceful entry going to provoke someone who's actively combatant? Is it going to make it worse? So I think we need time to ramp up and really explore the spirit of the legislation and safe training, and I do worry about that.
So you're alluding to the police accountability bill that was just signed into law by the state, I'm assuming, and there are a bunch of issues that the legislature is still going to be looking at in regard to that. I know one of particular concern to the police is this issue of qualified immunity, but do you have any other concerns with that legislation?
There's some language with the use of force and deadly force. I believe it spells out specific instruments that are kind of in our statute, but anything can be a deadly weapon, so you need to look at that. Certainly the duty to intervene, some of it is kind of vague. The PTSD or the psychological exam, the way I read it, I think the only person who's actually qualified in the state of Connecticut happens to be our EAP provider. I don't think there's enough doctors to do examine every officer in Connecticut within a 5-year period. So, the intent of the legislation is admirable, and we just want to be able to clean up some of this language. We've had some very productive discussions with legislatures locally, so I think that we'll get there, and I'm hopeful that we'll get there.
I wanted to just switch gears real quickly here. I imagine there's many things over the course of your career that you're never going to forget, both good and maybe not so good. One moment I'm sure that was very impactful for you, it was for me as well, covering it, was the death of Sergeant Matt Maynary. He was killed while off duty trying to break up a fight at a bar in South Carolina. The anniversary of his death just commemorated a little earlier this month. What do you remember about that day?
Just a horrible day. Getting that phone call in the middle of the night from my operations commander let me know that Matt was in trouble, that he was ill, that he'd been mortally wounded. Really, we prayed that he would make it through the night, and ultimately he didn't. But he's a hero in that he was an organ donor, and many people's lives have been improved. He was killed trying to defend someone he didn't know all that well. He died a hero, and then as an organ donor, God bless him, he went on and to improve other people's lives. So, that's something I will take with me forever.
Real quick, we got less than a minute. Obviously, the town's going to be searching for your replacement, but is there anyone who has your trust and confidence to lead the South Windsor Police Department forward?
Yeah, I've made no secret that Deputy Chief Christian Lindstrom is my pick. He was my recommendation. I put it right in my retirement letter. A great individual, great letter, great leader, extremely intelligent, mindful, sensitive. He's exactly what this agency needs to continue our legacy of excellence in policing, and very approachable. And I think he's going to do great things for South Windsor. I want to see him build on the foundation that myself and the previous chiefs have laid, and I wish him all the best. And I hope that announcement occurs in the next few days.
Chief Scott Custer of the South Windsor Police Department, congratulations again on your retirement, and thanks for taking the time to join us on The Real Story.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, and thank you for joining us on this edition of The Real Story. We'll be back again next Sunday at 10 a.m. Be sure to join us again tonight for the Fox 61 News starting at 10. Have a great day.